All right, let's dive into the amazing microscopic world of cell transport. And look, this isn't just some boring textbook stuff. This is the process that is literally keeping you alive second by second. So yeah, it's pretty important. Let's get into it. So I want you to picture each one of your cells, all trillions of them, as its own little bustling city. Now, every city has a border. For the cell, that's the cell membrane. And just like a real city, it needs some serious border control to manage all the traffic. Supplies coming in and trash going out. So how in the world does it pull that off?
Well, the first method is the simplest one. Think of it like floating down a lazy river. It's called passive transport, and it's the cell's way of letting things happen without having to lift a finger.
Okay, the whole idea here is super intuitive. Imagine a super crowded room that empties out into an empty hallway. Where do people naturally go? From the packed room, the area of high concentration, to the open hallway, the area of low concentration. Passive transport works exactly like that. And the best part for the cell? It's totally free. No energy cost whatsoever.
Now this free-ride transport system comes in 4 main flavors, and each one is perfect for different types of cargo. Let's break them down real quick. First up is simple diffusion. This is basically a VIP pass for tiny, essential molecules. Think about it. Every single breath you take, oxygen just diffuses from your lungs right into your blood, and carbon dioxide diffuses out. It's totally effortless, it's constant, and it's absolutely vital.
Next, we've got osmosis. It sounds complicated, but really, it's just a fancy name for the diffusion of water. Water is the ultimate multitasker in the body, right? It has to get everywhere. Osmosis is how your cells stay hydrated, and it's how plants are able to suck water up from the ground. But what about the bigger stuff, like glucose, the sugar you get from your food? Those molecules can't just slip through the membrane. They need a little help. And that's where facilitated diffusion jumps in. Special protein channels act like a revolving door, helping that glucose get inside your cells. And get this, it's still passive. It still doesn't cost any energy. It just needs, a special door.
And last on our free ride list is filtration. This one is pretty straightforward. It uses physical pressure to literally push things through a membrane. Your kidneys are the perfect example of this in action. They act like this incredibly advanced filter for your blood, using pressure to squeeze out all the waste while keeping all the good stuff.
Okay, so that's the easy way in, the downhill route. But what happens when a cell needs to move something against the natural flow? What if it needs to shove more of something inside, even when it's already crammed full in there? Well, for that, it needs to get active.
Okay, so this is a total 180 from what we were just talking about. Now, we're moving stuff from a low concentration to a high concentration. It's like trying to push a boulder uphill. And as you can probably guess, that takes a ton of energy. The cell has to pay for this work, and it pays with a molecule called ATP. It's basically the cell's version of a tiny, rechargeable battery.
A great way to think about this is like the cell's own private toll road. If you want to go against the normal, easy flow of traffic, you've got to pay a toll. And in the cell's world, that toll is energy in the form of ATP. Probably the most famous example of this is something called the sodium-potassium pump. This little molecular machine is working non-stop in a lot of your cells, especially your nerve cells. It burns ATP to constantly pump sodium out and drag potassium in. And get this one little pump can burn through 1/3 of your body's entire energy budget when you're just sitting around. That's how critical it is. It creates the electrical charge that is the basis for every single nerve impulse you have.
Active transport also handles the really big stuff. There's endocytosis, which is like the cell literally opening its mouth and just engulfing a particle to bring it inside. And then there's exocytosis, which is the exact opposite. The cell packages things up and fuses them with the membrane to release important stuff, like hormones, out into your body.
All right, so we've got these 2 totally different ways of getting things across the border. Let's put them head to head and check out the official rule book.
Look, if you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this. Passive transport is free. Active transport costs energy. That is the single biggest difference, and honestly, it dictates everything else.
And you can see how that one big difference changes everything else. Direction? Passive is always downhill, high to low concentration. Active is always the uphill battle. Active transport is also usually faster and way more selective. It uses specific proteins to grab exactly what it needs. Think of it like a bouncer with a very specific guest list. Passive transport, on the other hand, is for the small stuff, like gases and water, while active transport is busy moving critical ions and big nutrients.
Okay, we've been pretty deep in the weeds with the mechanics, but let's zoom out for a second. Why should you actually care about any of this? Well, because these tiny systems are what power your actual life.
I mean, this stuff isn't just for a pop quiz. This is the engine that keeps the whole city of your body running. Literally everything you do, thinking, moving, even your ability to listen to what I'm saying right now, it all comes down to this constant, perfectly controlled traffic buzzing across your cell membranes.
Go on, take a deep breath. That feeling of relief, that's simple diffusion in action. Oxygen flooding into your blood, CO2 rushing out, all happening passively, effortlessly, billions and billions of times a day.
And how about the very thoughts running through your head right now? Every single one of them, every signal your brain sends to your muscles is an electrical impulse created by billions of those sodium-potassium pumps paying their energy toll to create that charge. That's active transport powering your mind.
Remember that breakfast you had this morning? The energy you got from it? Well, that sugar, that glucose, gets into your cells to be burned as fuel, all thanks to facilitated diffusion, that special protein door we talked about. Without it, you'd have no way to power your body.
So really, if you want to boil it all down to one single idea, it's this. Passive transport just goes with the flow. It takes advantage of a natural process. But active transport, it makes the flow happen. It creates the conditions the cell needs to survive.
So at the end of the day, it's pretty clear this border isn't just a wall. It's an incredibly complex, energetic, and absolutely vital system. Which kind of leaves us with one last big question. What do you think happens to us, to our health, when this sophisticated border control starts to break down? Thanks for tuning in.